This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey Extra Edition. And I am joined, as always, with my good friend, my business partner, the dear Jason Neal, Patrick Harris, Johnston Yellen. How is Jason on this April day?
Spring has sprung, and so I may sound a little congested. Nobody can see my eyes and my red eyeballs on this audio recording, but holy moly, the pollen has got me this day. So I'm ready to hop on a plane, get off to San Francisco, and see what San Francisco spring is like for these allergies. But yeah, a little tough right now.
Would I be speaking out of school if I were to say it looks like you did a big bong rip?
Very much. I liked it earlier when you said it looked like somebody had taken a pound of pollen and rubbed it in my eyes, because that's exactly how it feels. This is very uncomfortable. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my ailments. We're here to talk about something much more interesting and exciting.
Indeed. Yeah, we've got a lot to cover here. I mean, we've got two new whiskeys that have launched today. We're going to be talking about those. Those whiskeys come with 4 different bundles. And one of these whiskeys actually come with a special interview that we're going to be introducing.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Right?
Yeah, a ton of fun. Really shows the relationship we have there.
Yeah. Indeed. So let us first talk about these two releases. I'm going to lead first with our Lachranza, aka Isle of Arran. This is a peated Isle of Arran, distilled at what's now called, the Lachranza Distillery.
Indeed.
This is an 8-year-old from a first fill bourbon barrel. And that was bottled at 61.8% alcohol, if I'm not mistaken.
Good strength. Yeah. I think young Arran takes the strength very well. It does not drink like it's above 60.
No, not at all. Because, it's a single cask nation selection. It's a single cask nation bottling. So it's always going to have that big, rich texture to it. That's our calling card, right? So
mouthfeel is tremendous.
There you go. And so it is an Isle of Arran. It is a Lachranza. So while it has that peat, it's got that big fruit coming in, that citrus, that apple orchard sweetness coming through.
Yeah, really holds itself well. And the nation, long time supporters of Arran, distillate from the Lachranza distillery, we have had tremendous success in putting Arran in front of the nation right from the very beginning, right from the inception of single cask nations. So we'll get into that a little bit with that interview you were alluding to. I will end my comments here for the moment.
Very, very good. Very good. And that bottle, by the way, is, again, it's an 8-year-old, but only $100 a bottle. And think back, right? The last Arran we put on our website, which was right around 5 years ago, was a 9-year-old, same price, $100 a bottle. So not so bad, right?
Yeah, proud of that one.
Yeah. The next one is our 15-year-old Rosary Burn. And Jason, you were very good to say this in our tasting video that we put up on YouTube. We can say what distillery this is, right?
We can say Glentalkers.
There you go. We can talk about this being Glentalkers.
We can talk Glenley.
You want to describe this one for us?
I have to go to the truncated note on the label because I'm so proud of it. And there's a cadre of nation supporters who know exactly what we're talking about here. But we write, this distillery located near the blink and you miss it hamlet of Maggie Knocketer is a long-time favorite of ours, and this example shows why. Warm spices mingle with dried fruits, while notes of incense and cigars elevate the drinking experience. Unmissable.
How do you pronounce that hamlet again?
Maggie Knocketer! Yes. Tremendous.
Oh, man. our love for this distillery runs so deep, so incredibly deep. And we bottled an 8-year-old, I think, in our first retail release back in 2017-ish.
Yep, exactly.
And is this our first?
Looking at it right now.
Is this our first Glen Talkers since then? Am I right? Does it matter? It doesn't matter, right?
I think you are correct, though. I think you are. Because I think in the tasting video, I suggested it was our first Glen Talkers.
Yeah.
So since that was not correct, I'm going to say second is correct.
Yeah.
So, a distillery I would love to bottle tons more from.
Yeah. So this one, 12 years in bourbon, 3 years in Spanish oak Oloroso. And what I love about this, that rich malty character, which regardless of cask seems to carry on this lovely sort of like cedar sort of note that comes through on it. So good malty characteristic to it. 62.6% alcohol. Again, nice, good unctuous texture. And $145 for a 15-year-old. That is less than $10 per year, which as an independent bottler, I'm really proud to tout that price.
That's a cracking price.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, really cracking.
Yeah.
And if I learned anything in our March release,
right,
there will be, as much as these are fantastic prices that we're very proud of, there may be bundles available where people can save more money.
You are so good. You're so good, Jason. Yeah, so there's 4 bundles. I'm going to run through this quickly because we really do want to try to keep this to a tight 35. And we do have Euan that we want to bring into this conversation here. So the first bundle is the combination of our Arran and our Rosary Burn, a.k.a. Glen Talkers. And we're calling that one April Showers, right? It's April.
There we
April
go.
Showers. So, right?
Sounds much better than April allergies.
April bong rips. So, right, if you were to buy those two separately, they'd normally be $245. But if you were to get the bundle, $220. So you're saving $25, right? Right?
Has this been approved by anybody? This seems like a lot of money.
Don't tell Steve. Don't tell anybody at ASC. Shh. Ixnay on the unny savings.
We're really putting the independent and independent bottlers.
So that's April Showers, and that's again the Arran and the Rosary Burn, and then and I love to have fun with these names. I've been coming up with these names. Maybe you can have some fun with next month's bundles. But the next bundle is called the R's Have It, and it's a combination of our Isle of Arran and our Ardnamurchan from last month's release. And that
another cracker. It's been going over very well,
right? And both of those, right? Normally $100 per bottling. For $175. Again, you're saving $25 for that pair. Right? Come on.
You're starting to make me nervous.
Are we meant to be feeding our wife and kids? I don't know.
Yeah. It's all about the whiskey around here. That's it. Just the whiskey.
It's all about that whiskey. Okay. 2 more to go. And now we're going to be jumping into a sherry. For those that really enjoy their sherried whiskeys, this third bundle is simply called the Glens. So it's a combination of our Rosary Burn, which again is our Glen Talkers 15-year-old, and the Glen Murray 13-year-old. Normally, nice. If you were to get those two individually, combine the two, it'd be $285. Get them as the bundle, it would be $250. So you're saving $35 getting them as a bundle. $35 savings. And if you were to add on, like, let's say you added on something like our Wilderness Trail, which is a $60 rye, right? Cheapest chips rye, then you'd be getting free shipping. You'd be saving $15 shipping, right? Like, come on. So
the gifts just keep on coming.
And then finally, we have a bundle called Spays on Your Side. I don't know, that name's kind of I grew up with this this news guy who was called Mike Boguslawski, and he would say, "My name's Mike Boguslawski, and I'm on your side." And there's going to be about, I don't know, maybe 100 to 2,000 people listening to this podcast that live in the Northeast who are going to say, "I remember Mike Boguslawski." Anyway, that's why I came up with the name of that bundle.
Please write in if you remember Mike Boguslawski. info@singlecastnation.com.
And so that's a combination again of our Rosary Burn, Glen Talker's 15-year-old, and our Tormore 10-year-old. And if you were to buy those individually, the combination would be $245, but as a pair, as this bundle, it's $215, so you're saving $30, right?
Holy macaroni! That's really excellent. That's one of the aspects we've always been so proud of in the nation is our pricing, and listening to the numbers on these bundles. That's remarkable. Another thing, if I may, Joshua, that we've always been very proud of is our relationships, our spirit of collaboration with the nation. And I think in today's very quick, extra length interview with Euan Mitchell from the Isle of Arran Distillers, he oversees Lochranza and he oversees Lag, we get to talk a little bit about our long-standing relationship, and we get to hear a bit about the evolution of distilling on the Isle of Arran, which I grew up across the Firth of Clyde from, and it is near and dear to my heart. So with your permission, Joshua, we will send it over to ourselves with Euan.
Permission granted. Euan Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Today we're launching our first Lochranza, aka Isle of Arran, for our U.S. online membership. Our first one in five years, right, Jason? Is that correct?
You're always a man with a number. All we're safely saying is it's our first since the pandemic.
Okay, the first since the pandemic. But it's our first one that we've released online in a good long while. And Arran was our first independent bottling that we had ever released as an independent bottler. And we've always been proud to say that. So it's really an honor to welcome you onto the podcast. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Great to be on with you guys again.
So, the Arran story has changed, right? I mean, you guys, here you are, you're celebrating 30 years distilling, which is kind of crazy to think about. I am a man of numbers, and now Arran is quite a distillery of numbers, 3 decades under your belt here. And you've gone through some changes here, right? A distillery doing no peating whatsoever, and then adding in various levels of peating, and then enter the Lag distillery, and you've gone back to no peating. Can we talk about the evolution of the Lochranza distillery and how the introduction of the Lag distillery sort of changed your vision of the Lochranza distillery?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I joined the business in 2003. So the Lochranza distillery, or as it was probably more commonly known then, the Isle of Arran distillery, started production. The first run of spirit was on the 29th of June, 1995. So we'll have that big 30-year anniversary this summer, and a suitable party to mark the occasion, as you would imagine. And yeah, so I joined the story just shy of 8 years later, or just over 8 years later, 2003. And they were only making unpeated spirit at that time, but there had been some chatter about doing a limited run of peated distillation. Our Japanese importer was kind of promoting the idea that it would be really something unusual and it's something to add to the story if we were to do some peated production during the production calendar at Lochranza. Mm-hmm. So that we kind of considered it, and we thought, well, look, there's no harm in trying it and see what it's like. So the first run of peated spirit happened in 2004, and it was very small, just a few thousand litres, and it was quite lightly peated at that time. I think it was about sort of 12 ppm, around that kind of level. So it was a kind of, as I say, it was just laid down. We didn't pay too much attention to it. I think there was another run of it in 2005, but then it didn't take place again. There was a couple of silent years when we didn't do any. And we kind of really picked the story up again about 2009 after James McTaggart had joined the team. So James, being a proud Eliach, he joined us from Bowmore and was very taken with this idea of producing peated spirit again on Arran. So that's when we started to look at it again and probably take it a bit more seriously, if you like. So we increased the peating level. So initially we moved it 2010. We moved it up to 20 ppm. We felt the lower it was just maybe a bit too subtle. It wasn't and punchy enough really to really make its mark. So we increased it to 20 ppm, and then a few years later we brought in a 50 ppm variant as well. So kind of taking it up a level. And that we would do one season of peated every year. So after the summer shutdown, generally, once we'd come back, we would do a run of the peated production. And the initial bottlings were done as like single casks, so just under the Arran single malt name, peated. It was a slow burn, if you like. So we put it out there, did a couple of bottlings for Japan. And slowly word started to build. People had tried these things, really liked the profile. It wasn't an intense peating style because it was mainland peat that we were using rather than island peat. So, very much more that kind of floral, heathery smoke rather than the full-on medicinal peat you get from Islay itself.
Yeah. And
that matched really well with the kind of fruity citrus notes of the Lochranza spirit. And then we eventually, as we had more volume to play with, that's when we came up with the concept of using the brand name of Machrie Moor, which is Machrie Moor essentially is a peat bog on Arran, which is also littered in Neolithic standing stones.
I have very, very fond memories of going out to Machrie Moor with you. And I want to say it was 2015. It was you, me, Louisa, and a couple other drinking Machrie Moor at Machrie Moor. That was
it's a special treat, isn't it?
Yeah, time to be remembered, sure.
No better place to do it, and to summon the spirits of the Dark Ages. So, and that was working pretty well for us. We had Machrie Moor sitting alongside the main Arran brand, but sales started to pick up, and we were noticing quite a lot of interest. And of course, single malt sales in general were growing, really mustering at that stage, and that's where the discussion at boardroom level really started about the possibility of a second distillery. In classic Arran style, it started off as a discussion about warehousing rather than distillation. So we've always had everything the wrong way around, essentially. So we had sort of maxed out the footprint of the land in Lochranza. We were looking at building at least one other warehouse on the island, and it wasn't going to be possible to do that in Lochranza. And we were looking at other sites around the island. James had been speaking to a local farmer who had suggested he would be willing to sell us some land, a field at the south end of the island. And that was really where the discussion started. It went to the board and we said, look, we have a site for some warehousing, a 15-acre site. And kind of out of the blue, one of the directors said, well, if we're going to build a warehousing site, we might as well have a micro distillery thrown in there as well. Which
micro distillery, addition.
So that got the chat going, and there was some discussion around that. And but the plan at that stage was very much almost a kind of an experimental distillery for doing test runs and training, you name it, sort of just some quirky stuff. Really was the original intention, and of course the idea just mushroomed from there. We got some architects. We spoke to maybe four architects, and we asked them to come along and present their visions to us, and they did that. And of course, the idea just exploded from there. And far from being a small experimental plant, we now have the Lag distillery, which is actually far bigger than the original distillery.
Oh wow!
And so it was kind of a roller coaster. It just kind of took off, and before we knew it, we had bought the land, we had engaged with architects, we had engaged with planners and everything. And when we were discussing about what was going to be the DNA of this distillery, why would it be so different? What would it make it stand out from Lochranza? And I said, well, the obvious thing would be to make it the home of peated Arran distillation. And there was a synergy because the south end of the island, which is the more arable part of Arran, where all the traditional farming took place, that was where the original whiskey distilleries were on the island. Yeah. And they would have used local peat for drying their malted barley. So the original Arran style from the island would have been peated. Of course, we don't have any examples of it left, but it would have been a peated style. And there were the last legal distillery on the island, licensed distillery, was actually at Lag itself. So there was a really nice, we were bringing the story full circle here. And so that's kind of really where it all started from.
So as you're talking about the evolution of Lag there, I would assume that the intended use of Arran, now Lochranza, that probably evolved as well. What did those conversations look like as you started to say, well, Lag can be the home of peat? What did you then think about doing with Lochranza?
Well, it was at the same time, we're never a company to tackle things simply and do one project at a time. We like to, the right to multiply the rate of grey hairs on my head. So at the same time, we looked to expand Lochranza. So we went from two stills to 4 in 2016. So around the same time, all of these discussions about Lag started forming. Was at the same time we were doubling the production capacity in Lochranza as well. So, let's say we were pretty optimistic back in those days. And but it has worked well. It gives us a lot more production, operational sort of fluidity at Lochranza, having the extra stills, and we've expanded again. We've added an additional 4 washbacks. We've built a new building on the side of the production house. We've added four new washbacks, also Oregon pine, and again, that just allows us a full production. If we were to go full pelt, we could be doing circa 1.2 million litres of alcohol at Lochranza. Wow. We're not doing that yet, but it's there. It's capacity that we could use. And then down at Lag, if we were full pelt there, we could do about 800,000. So between the two sites on the island, we could produce in a good year, and with everything going our way, and with no disruption to supplies of malted barley from the ferry, no weather disruptions, no staff illness, lots, picking 4-leaf clovers every other day. Then we could make 2 million litres of alcohol on the island, but we're not producing near that yet. It just has that capacity.
Okay, and then Lochranza turned off peated production. Am I correct in saying that there hasn't been peated production at Lochranza since 2017?
2017 was the last year we produced peated spirit.
Sure.
Yeah, on the nose.
Okay.
Well done. That's you've won the bingo. So
thank you. It's important to me.
As pretty much as soon as we knew we were pressing the button with lag, then we pulled back on the peated production at Lochranza. We still have a reasonable stock of that spirit, which will see us for a few years. But we really wanted then to start the process of shifting the focus for peated malt from Arran to be the lag story. And it will take time to evolve, but that will be eventually the very clear picture from the island. Unpeated spirit from the north of the island in Lochranza and heavily peated spirit from down at Lag.
So and this is on behalf of Macri Moor lovers everywhere, of which I count myself amongst the number, same as Joshua, will Macri Moor stock come from Lag, or will peated Isle of Arran, island writ large peated whiskey come under a different brand name?
No, the Macri Moor name is very much associated with the peated stock from Lochranza. So we had a discussion, we had a chat with the Scotch Whisky Association about that very question back at the start when we were thinking about brand names. And one suggestion was, could we move Macri Moor to Lag? But there was a feeling that was... It's very much associated with the Lochranza distillery, and would it be misleading or certainly confusing consumers if we were to do that? So they said it certainly was possible, but it would have meant removing the Macri Moor brand from shelf for a period of time to allow all stock to essentially disappear, and then it would have to be a relaunch as from the new distillery and a kind of quite a strong consumer awareness campaign just so that nobody was feeling they were being hoodwinked in buying this and actually finding it was from a different place. But having considered it all, we just thought we just wanted to go with the name Lag. We thought we want the brand name to be the distillery name and for that to be the strong story. So Macri Moor will continue for the time being to be the brand name for the peated spirit from Lochranza. That will fade out over time and ultimately will disappear.
Understood.
And we'll be left with Arran single malt from Lochranza and Lag from Lag.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have plenty more questions, but I know I'm keeping Joshua from his, so please, Joshua.
Well, so I have plenty of questions too, but this is also an extra episode. So it's a shorter episode here. The question that I had, and you pointed this out before, you said the clear difference between the Lochranza distillery and the Lag distillery is one is peated, one is unpeated. When I think about the Lochranza distillery, bright, fruity characteristics, the Lag distillery, peat. Would you also consider the Lag spirit to be a fruity style of spirit, or would you consider that to be heavy, meaty, a minerality to it? How are you designing that spirit at the Lag distillery? Aside from being peated, how are you delineating that spirit from Lochranza?
I think there's two answers to that question. The one is the design that we had on paper when laying out plans for the distillery, and then but you really only get to know a spirit once you start the distillation process. You can say, well, we intend this spirit to look like this, but actually what you get from the stills, it will be slightly different to that. The process itself will take it on a slightly different journey. So with Lag, we were looking for bigger, bolder. We wanted it to be rich, heavy, full-bodied, peaty spirit, to be quite distinct from the Lochranza spirit. Mm-hmm. Where we are with it at the moment, after 5 years, I would say that the defining characteristics would probably be sweet peat. So there's definitely a sweetness to the spirit. It doesn't have the same citrus orchard fruit character that you would easily associate with Lochranza. It's more a sweetness there. It's a sort of slight candy sweetness, and then you get the peat coming through in the aftertaste. So again, it's not something that it explodes in your mouth from the first sip. It's more of a slow burn, but then you're left with that residual peat, smoky, sweet, heathery bonfire characteristic as the kind of residual aftertaste.
Beauty.
So there's a definite sweetness there that was probably more pronounced than we anticipated, but we really like how it's evolving in its own right, and it's certainly very distinctive from Lachranza itself.
Yeah, beauty.
Oh, fantastic. And in the interest of time, and Joshua is right, we are recording an extra here. I want to bring us back to where Joshua started with his introduction, which is this relationship that Single Cask Nation has enjoyed with yourself, Euan, and Isle of Arran Distillers. And, you know, we've told the story early and often. Arran was the first producer who said, we want to be in a Single Cask Nation bottle. And for two jamokes walking around Scotland trying to get some scotch in a bottle, that was life-changing. So sincere thanks to you and for your belief in Single Cask Nation as well.
Yeah.
And as I sit here and I look at the bottle that we've just released in the month of April, and I'm looking at November 2015, and I know that around that time, we'd bottled our first whiskey with you, our first cask, and we'd refilled it. We'd then bottled our second cask with you and refilled that. And we continue to age those two casks in the larger ASC warehouse. But one of the things Josh and I were talking about in our tasting video for this Lachranza release was November 2015. Was there still a 20 ppm spirit going into cask at that point? I remember talking to James, and there was some points at which it was around 20. There were some points it was around that 50. And I think the two casks that we filled, one of them is 20 and one of them is 50. And I'm curious, and I know I'm asking you to cast your mind back to November of 2015, a healthy decade ago. But do you remember the processes around there? Do you remember the peating levels at that time?
I struggle to remember November 2024, to be honest. Never mind 2015.
I was hoping 2015 might make it easier. It's farther back.
Yeah, if I delve into the darker recesses of my memory, there used to be. We used to produce both types during peat season at Lachranza. So we would do 20 ppm, and then we'd move on. That would be the larger volume would be 20, and then we would do a run at 50 ppm as well. So
okay.
We always produced the two styles together during that period.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. I mean, there's clearly a difference between them, but between 20 and 50, where you think it would be quite an enormous leap in terms of style, it's not that big. There's more intensity there. There's more of the peat smoke on the finish with the 50, but it's not like night and day. It's not. They're pretty close in character. It's just in the detail really where you see the difference on the 50. I mean that's been something we've certainly found with Lag as well, is that the distillery opened in March 2019. We opened to the public in June 2019, and the first 6 months were quite difficult. We were just getting used to the building, and after the first 6 months, we thought, right, it's been a difficult few months, but 2020 is going to be our year. We're going to absolutely smash it. 2020. And after 5 minutes, we said, shut the doors. No, nobody's allowed in. COVID has arrived. But even since we reopened, we've had a lot of difficulty getting peated malt, because there was a big shortage of peated malt in Scotland for quite a considerable period of time. So the general peating level with Lag is 50, but we've had unpeated Lag, we've had 20 ppm, 25, 30. So we've had a whole different range, which has allowed us to see the impacts of the different peating levels on the spirit itself. So it's been quite interesting. But in an unplanned way.
Sounds classic.
Yeah.
Joshua, I'll let you get us out of here if you've got something up your sleeve.
I've got nothing up my sleeve other than a huge thanks, Euan.
Absolutely, Euan.
Yeah, no, it was always a pleasure dealing with you guys, and as I say, we totally bought into the passion that you brought to the story from day one, and it was an easy easy decision to us in terms of working with the casks. And no, you've just gone on to strength from strength. So as we say over in these parts, lang may your Limerick.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the nation has supported Arran so well, even to the point, again, in the tasting video, we talked about the 2-minute sellout of our last Arran during the pandemic. But times have changed, but I want to see that Arran passion in the nation again. And so to have you on here to share your experience with now the 2 distilleries means the world to us as well. So thanks for making time for us. And it's always a pleasure sitting down and chatting with you.
Likewise, and I'm sure this new release will go down really well with your followers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Huge thanks to Euan Mitchell for joining us, just for however long it was, 15, 20 minutes or so. It's such an honor to have had this relationship now for 15, whatever number of years it was, and shot him a quick message.
2011.
What's that?
2011. It all kicked off.
There you go.
Long time ago. Well, I agree with you, Joshua. Having Euan on was terrific. Mentioning these bottles, mentioning these bundles, remarkable as well. I'm about to hop on a plane, head to San Francisco. Mentioned that at the start of today's episode. I will be pouring Lochranza and Rosary Burn, aka Glentalkers, at Fog City Social in San Francisco on Saturday, the 26th, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th.
Checks calendar.
That is a Saturday. Well, I know I fly on the 23rd, which is the day we drop these bottles. Right. So if you're a member of Fog City Social and you support us in the nation, please come and find the Single Cask Nation table. I'll be pouring retail as well as e-commerce bottles. Last year, I must have poured through a dozen bottles at Fog City Social. So come along, come early. Some things are going to empty. But I'm looking forward to pouring, looking forward to continuing this relationship with Arran, a.k.a. Lochranza, and Rosary Burn, a.k.a. Glentalkers.
Beauty. I was going to say, come and see me tomorrow at Scottish Dave's in Clinton, Connecticut, because I'm going to be pouring 4 of our retail bottlings, but that tasting is completely sold out.
And that's on the 23rd of April?
That's actually, no, that's on the 24th.
That's the 24th?
That's the 24th of April. So,
nice.
so don't come because it's sold out.
But if you have a ticket, be sure to come.
then please do come. So anyway, thanks everybody for always tuning in and telling your friends. And listen, if you haven't told your friends about One Nation Under Whiskey, please do tell your friends. And if you've been listening on Apple Podcasts and haven't given us a 5-star rating, now is your perfect opportunity. If you've been listening on Spotify and haven't given us a 5-star rating, now is your perfect opportunity. If you've wanted to send in a question but haven't done so, you can email us, info@singlecasknation.com. Jason, as always, it's a pleasure to be doing this podcast with you. It's been a pleasure Single Cask Nationing with you.
It's been a pleasure putting together this tight 35 with you.
Is it 35? I don't know what it is. But anyway, good luck in San Francisco. Pouring the good stuff. Say hello to all of our dear friends for me.
I will indeed. Until the next episode. Cheerio.
Cheerio. It's recording. All right.
This morning I was looking for an easy... Oh, fuck's sake. You know when you can't see a thing for looking at it? I was looking for an easy mute button this morning and I couldn't find it. I looked at every fucking square on the screen and now I see the mute bottom left. Fucking, that's exactly what I was looking for. I literally looked at everything on the screen. Every little bit that any information is held, I looked at it.
There's also one right on your little tiny little preview window. There's a little microphone. And you could just tap that, and I can even make you shut up. Watch this. Go ahead. Talk if you want. Blah, 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 blah. Anytime I want you to shut up, I just click that. Boom.